Vitaly, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. The statements of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, about the fact that his Ukraine is ready, apparently, for nuclear testing. Russian President Putin has knocked out nuclear rhetoric and Zala in his American way. Those halls were actually organized by a filthy yak. At today's meeting of the Rada of the Russian Federation, I am for infrastructure problems seen before the nuclear dump. The Speaker of the State Duma of the Russian Federation, Volodin Zapita Putin yak leader cotton wool on the nuclear threat of the Americans. And the buckets are already the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation Belasev. The Chief of the General Staff of the Dropped Forces of Russia, General Gerasimov, spoke out because of the prepared additional comments in obtaining staff from the fact that Ukraine is up to nuclear tests, and that Russia is not merged to such tests of the imperious nuclear dump. Putin Tim Po has not yet given the order for such tests to be printed out, however, after giving instructions to everyone. The department was numb to the dates of the bill's propositions. The Russian Federation can be seen nuclear tests. This rank can also be said to be the Russian President you, having decided to make a so-called mirror reaction to the statements of your American colleagues. However, not to the truth. The provocateur here is not Trump, but Putin himself, but the Russians. The rest of you are trying intercontinental missiles. It may still be on these nuclear discharges, and it will not fly to get to pass. In order for you to be developed on the territory of the sea received in the state in America. And Putin bragged about the new drilling rigs and Poseidon systems. And Putin, I will dump the nuclear rhetoric to my rhythm, to the blackmail of practical Russian-Ukrainian guilt. And it was possible for the Russian president not to dilute it from him and the chair. To see a speech on the nuclear slurping of the Russian Federation from the date to act firm the imperious nuclear slurping. In the overgrowth, the situation is unreasonable, yak really develop. I also talk about my nuclear coping with the escalation of drains. The Russian Federation has not yet conducted full-scale nuclear tests in its history in the Nikola Zagel. Nuclear tests were conducted by the Radian Union in 1990 company. A moratorium on such testing was laid bare, and people from nuclear-armed Ukraine, the yaks were ready, conduct these tests legally. Tesh has been on the was since getting the States and in Britain. In fact, I have not yet received nuclear tests from the Russian Federation with such a rank. The trial will be a serious crock in the no longer escalation of drains, but about escalation in bags between two nuclear. And over the Podagov from the district light. And we have perfectly notified you of the fact that this time, Russia will also compete with the received states. Because nuclear testing and modernization of the nuclear potential in Zelito is a costly thing to get, and it is so necessary to inform. With such a rank, one can also talk about the fact that at the moment both the American and Russian presidents may have been numb in demonstrating their own, and not in conducting real nuclear tests at the greatest hour. And the escalation of drains, yak we, of course, in May it's serious. We were busy preparing Russia to blame for our Ukraine. And it really started from the escalation of the drains, and not noticeably from the age of the greatest guilt on the European continent. They finished off a friend of the color war. Well, and with this rank you are torture, yak the situation will develop further. Trump is extremely famous for his threats and his orders. Putin's rhetoric at the address from the United States and the demonstration of missiles delivered on the territory of America itself. And the girlfriend, obviously, is on fire on the Russian-Ukrainian front. For Putin, the demonstration of aggression is an important tool for the powerful and remembered hatred of the more successful and prosperous retinue. Well, the blame with Ukraine, and because we are perfectly aware of you, the Russian president does not choose to finish until the moment he does not notify the torture and the grounds of the Ukrainian state are resolved, and Russia can come in the Ukrainian region to the Russian Federation. The alternative is that Putin does not have a chance to jump out and continue the Russian-Ukrainian guilt. However, for those it is necessary to have a real, not verbal, attack on the president of the Russian Federation. I will get rid of American sanctions about Russian NAFTA concerts in Rosneft and Lukoil. And I will continue with a new blow to the Russian economy in the face of the truth of real nuclear testing. It will lie down, and as a result, I will develop the situation in view of the Americans and Russians. It is known. You can go through 2 consultations with each other. On Tilka, the perspective is seen in nuclear testing. Testing of ballistic intercontinental missiles, delivery systems, and the yak body. On the territory of sea received in the state in America, and on the territory of the Russian Federation. And maybe the situation will continue to escalate, and the nuclear testing of Persia for Moscow and Washington is really visible to the 20 Persia. And with it is visible in the workshop of nuclear testing. Unpack a completely new era and a new atmosphere in the bags of Moscow and Washington and the sunset, Yakso and Diakuyu. Ends on the channel, subscribe to it, subscribe to social on the channel in Patreon and Donatello. And it helps to develop these resources, the sponsorship function itself.